Newton's law of motion. The first law, if an object continues to be in its state of rest or in uniform motion in a straight line until and unless some external force applied on it change in state. Newton's first law defines inertia. When body said to be raised, always wants to be raised. Body said to be a motion, always wants to be a motion. Whenever the external force does not be applied on it. Newton's first law defined the inertia. Inertia is a type of a property, a characteristic of an object. The property of an object due to which resists any change in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line by itself is called inertia. Inertia of an object measured by the mass. There are three types: rest of inertia, inertia of motion, and inertia of direction. Inertia of rest, body wants to be always rest whenever the force apply on it. And body, second, inertia of a motion, a body wants to be motion, always wants to be motion, is known as inertia of motion. And third is inertia of direction. When you are sitting in a train, bus, always wants to be body rest, and so it is example of inertia of rest. When we have start moving, body wants to be always wants to motion, so it is the example of inertia of motion. When bus can be changed in direction, body wants to be a straight path, so we have fall in another direction. So this is the example of inertia of direction. So inertia is the most important. It depends upon mass on an object. It has three types: rest of inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and inertia of rest. The property of an object at the rest to remain at rest and not to be moved on its own is called the inertia of rest. For example, jerks while you are traveling by. When you have stand in bus starts suddenly, we tends to be fall backwards. The suddenly we are tends to fall backwards. This because we fixed our contact with their bus. And inertia depends on the mass of an object. Greater mass have greater inertia, less have mass of less inertia. So inertia depends is related with the mass of an object. Second, inertia of motion. The property of an object which at motion remain at motion, not to be external force apply on it. Such inertia is known as inertia of motion. A bus start motion, always wants to be, body said to be also wants to be motion. Suddenly apply the brake on the bus, we have jerk forwardly, and due to their inertia of motion. So this example is inertia of motion. Inertia of rest and inertia of motion is the most important in our lives. We have always exist to inertia of rest. There are different examples. Strike the cloth under their hips, the book suddenly pull. Suddenly starting the stationary bus. This is the example of inertia of rest. And inertia of motion, the passenger jumping out moving bus and suddenly stoppage the moving bus. Some distance is run before talking along the jump. Good afternoon, children. Now we have today discuss about the force and Newton's law of motion. It is very important. Last class now we have discussed about force. Force, what is force? Force is a pull or push which change or tends to change the state of rest or uniform motion or in direction of motion of an object. That means body can be moved, change in position change in direction, and change in shape and size when the force applied on object. Force produce following effect. Force mainly produce the object. Force can be change the motion, force can be stop the motion, and force can be change the direction, and force the change the speed. So the effect of force, four factors and five factors, it's depend upon the force can be change the motion, or stop the motion, change the direction, change the speed, and change the shape and size of an object. So the force apply the object the following effect, and the type this type of the change in object, but is said to be erased. When the force applied, it change in motion. When body in motion, when the force applied push and pull, body becomes to be raised. When body change in direction, when a force apply on an object suddenly change in direction. And the change in shape and size, when the force act on a body, the body should be changed in different shape and size. There are two types of the force mainly, balanced force and unbalanced force. Balanced force, when the number of force act on an object do not bring about any change in its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line, then these forces are said to be balanced. Yani that force, when the two forces act on a body cannot be displaced at the position. Such forces are known as balance. In balanced force, body should said to be rest, always wants to be rest. Second, when the number of force act on a body bring about the change in state, rest or uniform motion in a direction, then these force said to be unbalanced force. When force act on a body and body change in position, such force are known as unbalanced force. Balanced force having only change in shape and size, but unbalanced force body change in position, shape and size, in direction. They have two type of force, F1 and F2. F1 and F2 both are in opposite direction, body said to be rest. Such force are known as balanced force. When F1 is greater than F2, the body is said to be motion. Yeah, F2 is less than F1, then body is said to be a motion in a direction of force act. So the force both object depends upon balance or unbalance. They have effect of the balanced force have only shape and size, and unbalanced force body shape, change in position, change in direction, and change in shape and size. So two type force, balance and unbalanced force, are most important in our life. Some common forces: contact force, normal force, frictional force, gravitational force, etc. Contact force, the force which have two body having contact to each other, such force are known as contact force. Muscular force is a contact force. When muscles are act on a body said to be a contact, and due to the contact in body said to be motion, या change in shape and size, या change in direction. Normal force, which force act on a perpendicular direction of an object. And frictional force, the force which act on a body in an opposite direction. Such force are known as frictional force, which oppose the motion. Body can be walk on the surface due to the frictional force. If the frictional force having oppose the motion of an object. And next is a gravitational force, force acting on a gravity. Due to the earth, in a force act on a gravity, such force are known as gravitational force. Each and every object can be attracted towards each other. Such force are known as gravitational force. Gravitational force is also, it depends upon mass of an object. So there are some different common type of the force: contact force, normal force, frictional force, gravitational force. All are the force which is important in our life. Next topics, the Newton's law of motion. Newton's first law of motion. The each and every object